Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This Walkie Talkie, hanging out, telling stories, session number 12. So this session is really it marks the 1 year of Walkie Talkie. It's already 1 year old because we started it in May last year. With an idea that we want to discuss and we want to listen to the stories of our friends from many places, both in Indonesia or anywhere in the world. So yeah, here we are with our uh, hosts, storytellers, and some guests from Philippines. It's only like 4 hours away from Jakarta by plane. If I may, is it 4 hours away? Yeah. But if you fly from Manado, it will be even closer to fly from Manado to Manila. Manado is in North Sulawesi. Yeah. So Walkie Talkie is a hanging out, telling stories to connect with some friends, where proximity doesn't refer to something geographical or physical. It's about stories, what it means to work and to live together. And we always do it every 15th each month since May last year. And I'm not going to be very clear to start because it will be Katie and Christine Capili, Katherine Nuñez, an artist and director of 98B COLLABoratory in Manila, Philippines, and Christine Capili, also an artist, project coordinator of 98B COLLABoratory. Uh, so I give the mic to Katie and Christine to start. Katie and Christine will introduce all of our guests and we'll start the conversation and we'll let's enjoy the stories of 98Bs and all the guests. Katie and Christine, it's yours.
Okay, thank you. And then, first, before we start, we'd like to take ruangrupa for inviting us and everyone. Mayumi, Mark, Eliz, Gab, and Christine for joining the current session of Walkie Talkie. So I'm going to introduce myself. We're going to introduce ourselves, me and Christine, and 98B first, and then we will talk to our guests for today. So hi, I'm Kathy Nuñez. I'm the current team head slash director slash mother hen, all around arts worker of 98B COLLABoratory. I entered 98B, I think, on 2015 and officially took over the space on 2019, the year before the pandemic hit us on 2020. um, I am accompanied by my teammate and friend here, Christine Capili. So hi, team.
Hi.
Um, Maybe you can introduce a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you, Rupa, for this opportunity. I'm Christine Capili, and I'm a team member of 98B Collaborating. I think I started around late 2018, officially started early 2019, and then if usually do the posters for the team, sometimes pitch projects and mount projects for the team as well. And yeah, I'll hand it over to Mark and Mayumi to introduce themselves.
Okay, I'm surprised.
Should I? I'm nervous.
So, thank you, Kathy and Christine, and of course to Ruangrupa and Dan for this get together because this is, I think, very important also to catch up with our friends, even though we are in the same city. We haven't really seen each other, only through Instagram or Facebook. So I'm Mark Salvatus. I'm an artist and visual artist. And in 2012, Mayumi and I co-founded 98P in this house. So the address is 98P. And then and then Gabs came, and eventually many things happened. And I think the idea of what Andan says, we kind of want to talk about the regeneration of 98P, because I think that's very important in having that kind of collective, creating new direction, new people, which is like a plant. It's generate. So thank you.
Just to give everyone an idea of what 98B is. So as Mark said, 98B is an artist-run space and initiative in the historical streets of Escalda, Manila. But it started in their home. If anyone wondering why it's named that way, it's because that's their house number. um, it was established on 2012. Um, and basically, in 98B, what we do is we like to collaborate with creatives from different disciplines, not just visual artists. Um, we hold a lot of markets to support the creative community, um, and exhibitions, artist talks, performances, and a lot of hot pot and barbecue parties. which
And beer.
obviously, yeah, which obviously are challenging to do now because of the pandemic. Um, Maybe before we start, because basically this talk is really about um, our discussion on how each of our spaces try working together with the communities that we work with and how we uplift each other. Maybe just to give everyone as well, especially those in other countries, an idea of what's going on in the Philippines. Today, most of us live in Metro Manila, and we're currently under lockdown. Metro Manila is the worst hit region in the Philippines, where most cases are recorded. So it's very challenging for us to mount exhibitions or any event, whatever. Um, so we have to continue in order for us to survive as spaces, as initiatives. We have to continually look for adaptive ways to mount exhibitions, projects, and to organize the team and the community that we work with. Um, so I guess before we start, I just want to say like despite this situation, still we see artists and cultural workers continue to mount projects, um, which I personally view as acts of um, resistance, even if it's just like a simple mounting of a project, and also as acts of care. So yeah, we see them organized together to help each other go through this pandemic in radical and very human ways. um, so um, in today's Walkie Talkie session, we have Mayumi and Mark, founders of 98B. They're going to talk about their initiative called Load na Dito or Load na Di.
Or
and
Lodi.
Lodi. Okay, Mark. And also, we have Gab here, part of the original core team of 98B, who, like Mark and Mayumi, has also graduated from 98B and has set up a space of his own called the Den Coffee and Contemporary Culture. And then we have Eliz here, who's the current program manager of the HubMake Lab, which initially started as an experimental project by 98B on 2016, which eventually again graduated from 98B on 2019 to become an organization of its own. So as you may have noticed, there's a lot of graduation involved in today's discussion, but also a lot of beginnings and adventures. Without further delay, maybe we can start with our founders, Mark and Mayumi. Thank you.
Pass a load. So thank you again to Kathy. And it's really, I'm missing telling jokes to these guys because it's really how we talk. It's, I think we are, serious in doing things, but of course the fun and sharing stories, small stories and jokes is important to us, even though they don't like the jokes, so it's okay. So I think I will talk with Mayumi about the transition. Is it okay? I think that's a very important because of the new generation of 98B.
Okay.
Because I think Kathy will talk about 98B, but the new generation is important because in a way it's very very organic or natural that eventually individuals become interested on what 98B is doing since before. So I think the energy was passed on, not only the space or the spirit, I could say. So so I think that's how we as a part of the community in Manila is different from the context of what the art community is presenting. So I think in 98B is like the expansion of what art can do, or expanding the meaning of art through working together or collaboration. And it started with our immediate community, like friends or friends of friends. So so I think the transition was good way to branch out to different forms and also expression. So Mayumi and I formed a new initiative called Load Na Dito. And Load Na Dito focuses more on collaboration, but not necessarily with physical space, because we are also kind of mobile before. But now, of course, everyone is grounded and cannot move. So the idea of experimenting or collaborating without physical movement is also as a kind of trust to explore more. So I think maybe Mayumi can add a little bit more.
Hi everyone, it's very nice to see you all. We are so near, but so far at the same time. Haven't seen each other for a year or more. And just to continue what Mark said, but we want to share this news that the ground floor of this apartment, we decided to renovate so we can host alumni gathering. So it's now we have aircon and it's white. So when the quarantine is finished, please, we will host a party for our alumni, 98B. And I don't know, something just funny story to share. I found out there is another 98B, the same address in a different area. So when we order things, 98B, the street, then the food goes to a different location. And we keep receiving other people's package. So the strange ones. So we found
Collaborative.
I know, so collaborative, but also very mysterious. We didn't know what's happening really. And recently I found out 98B is not really facing this street in front of us, but we are actually belonging to the other street that crosses this street. So yeah. So I'm thinking, this is 98B is an address, but it kind of transcended its physical location. It's almost becoming like, I don't know, our spiritual place.
It's 98B is a mystery.
Yes. And I don't know. I think we are really stuck in this house. And the concept of Lona Dito was supposed to be spaceless. So we wanted to collaborate with other spaces, of course, thinking about then 98B, the hub. But because of this immobility, I think we are trying to use this time to recalibrate and think of different ways to collaborate, which maybe we can discuss later. Yeah. Okay, so I will pass the microphone to, can I choose who?
Okay.
Okay.
Drum roll, please.
So I will call Gabs.
Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you again and to have this conversation, at least somewhat face to face, and yet still together but apart. So I'm Gab Villegas. I was also I'm a graduate of 98B. I have been with 98B since 2012 and then graduated at the same time with Mark and Mayumi. And then after that, I went on to head the hub when it also graduated from 98B. And then I also graduated from the Hub Make Lab last year. So Eliz is now the the head of the Hub Make Lab. So I graduated 2 times already.
So you're a PhD.
Yeah, I'm taking my masteral now. No, it's a joke. So now I'm, since 2016 also, I have been working in a coffee shop called the Den Manila then. And then at first it started as a way to be sustainable outside of corporate work while still being in proximity of 98B and still being together with friends, with everyone who's part of the team and its community. And then later on, it evolved also from a sustainability standpoint. From a sustainability standpoint, it also evolved into, I think, a space. It could not be avoided because, yeah, like what Mark mentioned earlier at the start of the discussion, it's like the spirit of 98B. You can't escape it. Like you always feel the need. You were always working together, initiating things.
The ghost of 90s.
Yes, the ghost of looking at things.
98B is not dead yet.
And then also, yeah, just that from constantly working with that and exploring possibilities and new things and new ideas. So, of course, it couldn't be helped but translated also into that space, which is the Den. So we also do like exhibitions, some programming, where it also crosses over into contemporary culture, like music, talks, coffee, of course, and then sometimes food. So it's also, in a way, it carries on with it, that spirit of 98B where there's always drinking, there's always food, there's always discussion, there's always that freedom to do things and explore ideas. And then, congratulations also, 98B, you're 9 years old now. Who'd have
Ready.
Binata na.
almost preteen.
Dalaga na. Dalaga.
Preteen. So yeah, so that's just a brief background of me and then the space. So maybe it's time to pass on the microphone to Eliz.
Hi. So hi, I'm Eliz Ting. I'm a maker and the current program manager of Hub Make Lab. Honestly, I actually just came upon this position because Gab had to graduate from the hub because he had to focus and buckle up for the Den. We were all caught very off guard with how the pandemic hit and he had to close down like altogether for like 3 months. So it was really hard for everyone to adapt. But first off, to explain what Hub Make Lab is. It's actually an artist and maker-led experiment in arts, cultural programming, community activation, and creative sustainability. As Kathy and Gab mentioned earlier, it was actually a project of 98B. It started out as a project of 98B and then it grew to its own in 2018. For the past few years, it mounted different kinds of projects, hosting like different kinds of communities, ranging from a culto fair, which was a comprehensive event on sustainability, and we housed different like lectures and talks and workshops. We also have other events that we hosted are like Mista ng Pamana, which is a celebration of heritage and culture. So it's very different. Like when the pandemic hit, we can't host any more activations and activities. It's been really hard. So the focus of like Hub Make Lab last year was migrating online and trying to find its footing again amid the circumstances, because in reality, it was logistics and transportation was like super difficult. So people can't really access the space. So we had to find ways to connect online. So we launched the Hub Make Lab website come October in order to sell our products online. So we, and there, what else? We've been working closely with 98B as well. I'm like continuously learning and evolving, trying to mount more activations and ways to bring in more sellers at the Hub Make Lab. Because of the pandemic, a lot of sellers had to back down, and like because they don't have access to the space, or like they can't afford to stay anymore. And last August, like through Tin's initiative, she brought up the project Bahay Bahayan. And then if then you would want to explain Bahay Bahayan, or should I? Pass a load.
Yeah, I just want everyone to let everyone know that 98B and Hub is all girl power for the past few months.
Running on girl energy.
So yeah, Bahay Bahayan is like a market, a bounce back market initially mounted by 98B and the Hub that aims to welcome small businesses to find footing in Hub Make Lab and 98B. And then we gave them partial space grants for lesser rents, or either consignment terms, whatever is more flexible for them. And what's surprising is, as much as there are people that are backing down, there are people that are really looking for spaces to collaborate with, or to find footing in. So I think that was surprising or interesting for the Hub, especially in 98B, especially during this pandemic. Like you really see people doing the best that they can to reach out, or like taking extra steps or extra measures to reach out, especially right now. So yeah.
Yes, and like I'd like to also mention, Tim, that like the Bahay Bayan project was interesting, but because it also hosted like some of the other spaces, or like some other spaces that have lost their own spaces because of the pandemic also.
Yeah.
So it's really essentially like the Bahay Bahayan, the current project that we're working with the Hub right now. It's essentially really our response to the pandemic. And it has been very challenging, even though this was something that was we were passionate on mounting. It came with its own challenges. Um, like for instance, we had to learn and also unlearn um, a lot of ways on how we organized the team pre-pandemic. And then uh, yeah, basically we also had to be open to a lot of uh, changes and a lot of failures, which is something maybe a lot of everyone here can relate to. Yeah, so maybe we actually wanted to ask you guys if you have like any programs or projects or activities that you've done as a way to adapt or to respond to the pandemic. Because online, I've been seeing some activities from the other spaces as well. Just to share to people, like the ways you had to organize or mount this exhibition that was different from how you guys used to mount projects before. I think that's a very important thing to discuss as well, because as artists and as initiators, we know the importance of like self-initiating, but also along the way we had to adapt to a lot of challenges.
Maybe it's okay. I can share. We can share about. That's a good question, because in the first few months of lockdown last year, maybe we're kind of anxious what to do. No, I mean, are we going to continue? Are we going to stop? And we really don't know because of the situation. So we have to to shift or even adapt and calibrate how we work together, because I think we have all this same ground that we really work with other people or with other group, or I think it's kind of, I don't know, natural, since we are maybe artists or in the context of cultural work, and then the pandemic makes us more separated because of the limitations of movement. So it becomes more harder to organize things. So everything shifted online, which is, I think we are already using the online platform before, because we are in a way digital people or in a way not digital native, but we kind of adapt through this technology that's presented to us. So one of the projects in Lona Dito, we continue our concept of talking or artist conversation through Flex, which is an online, it's not online game, it was designed physically, but because of the we tried online platform like Zoom to create a discussion through like exchanges. So I think that's one project that we kind of adapt. But I think one thing that arises with the pandemic is the shifting of residency. And because residency is about space or the physical space you want to encounter or you want to experience. But we thought of doing the idea of Pasaload as an idea of sharing the space on Instagram as a way to, in a way, kind of residency for a few days, up to 1 week. And the idea of sharing the space. So we let the artists that we invited, and eventually some artists who participated recommend another artist for that. So it kind of roll to different individuals or collective. So that shift is still some kind of like we are thinking, are we going to normalize how we experience or view art through the screen? So it's still kind of a question. Are we normalizing our conversation on the screen only? So these are kind of adaptation that we used.
Yeah, maybe I add some to what Mark said. I think before pandemic, our way of thinking about project was more focused on presentation. But because of this COVID, we had to rethink what does it mean to present, when there is no physical distinction between the site of production and site of presentation. And even if we try to present, the audience cannot go. And experiencing art online, like encountering artwork online, is quite different from encountering the work in space face to face. So our shift was also from focus on presentation to more of, I think, communication. But using internet, we know it's very unstable. So the communication, we are also exploring how can we still communicate with these disruptions. So the game Mark mentioned, Flex, is a conversational game, but we are not really having conversations. It's just exchange of words. So when we listen to what people are saying, it's not making sense at all, but it just feels like we are spending time together, being together, which I feel is still succeeded from what we were doing as 98B. Like Mark constantly making jokes and we are not really understanding, but we are there together, that kind of thing, because if it's Zoom, we feel like, oh, we have to make sense, we have to understand what others are saying. But that's also very stressful. And it's not just because of our personal capacities, but it's the infrastructure and the situation. So I think that part we are trying to be embracive. Yeah, and I think that's a big shift. And in terms of working method, Mark, as you know, is very spontaneous. He's very quick in responding. And I'm not saying it's a negative thing. I think he's really good at doing it, and I can't copy. But I'm totally the opposite. I need careful planning. So it has been a constant conflict inside the house. But yeah, so that's a process that we are going through, just to share with our good friends.
Cannot escape.
No way to escape.
Yeah, I just really want to share the dynamic that we have now at 98B with Kathy and sharing the workload with Eliz. Like the two, Kathy and Eliz, are like the mother hens, and Juno and I are like the more spontaneous people. They're the pillars of structure, Kathy and Eliz. So parang somehow we really balance out the team.
Almost the same with you and Mark.
You need a black sheep in the family.
And I also want to add, like with what Mayumi said with the problem with the internet, like that's such a specific problem in the Philippines that I think each one of us has encountered, like with our shift to the online. So like for instance with the Hub Make Lab, because we did help them put up the online shop, like it was so difficult to learn the platform as well, and then to like constantly upload everything, because as Mayumi said, there would be moments of disconnect because of the poor internet connection or the platform itself. Yeah. So maybe Eliz can share a little bit about the projects that have wanted in
Um,
response to the pandemic.
So actually, like with the pandemic, there were a lot of drastic shifts in terms of operations. So like pre-pandemic, every shop had to man their own booths, and then people could actually ask about the products, and people, like, as opposed to just transactions and like buying stuff, you would actually exchange and get to know like the story behind your products. But now, like online, it's so hard because everything is just in one platform. And then even at the hub as a space, we had to have a centralized shopkeeper and a centralized payment scheme, because not everyone has access to the space. So we had to figure out, our sole shopkeeper had to learn everyone's products and whatnot. And then since we didn't have a lot of like shops left at the hub, thanks to like the 98B's initiative Bahay Bahayan, which actually translates to playing house. So we brought in other creatives and creative businesses, and they got to find their footing and they got to find a home again. And then it was really exciting. We only got to start mounting events early this year when the economy opened. So we started with our first hub sale and flea market at the end of January. So it was really nerve-wracking because ever since last year, it's about the balance of you want to invite people, but then you have to consider safety. Like you don't want a lot of people to go to the space as well because you could contract COVID. And then we had to consider like capping the number of people. So we only have like 30 people at the time at the hub to be sure. And then I think the flea market and the sale was pretty successful in that it had enough people and then people were responsible enough to distance themselves. And then come Feb, when Bahay Bahayan launched, it was actually launched during Chinese New Year weekend. So we timed it right in such a way that it coincides with the holiday, and then like people were really excited. You could see the build-up of excitement of people wanting to go to the space and like having the freedom to access the space and meet people in person again. And then come the actual event, there were moments that like people were falling in line, and we knew that we had to contain. Like there was a bit of fear, like in terms of like the number of people, but then at the end of the day, like the interaction, like coming together as a space again, like it was refreshing. What else? Now, in terms of actually mounting and like mobilizing the event, it was really difficult because Tin and I were actually based in Laguna, and then Kathy and Juno like are based in Manila. So for us to actually access the space and set up, it was a road trip. I was like Mayumi and Mark, like Kathy and I were parents. I was the dad. I was driving like to everyone's houses to pick them up. And then we'd go to the space, and then Kathy would cook or Tin would cook. And then like I would host them at my house. So it's like for everyone's safety, because we have to be maskless, or like you have to have a space that's safe for everyone. So it was really...
We are also taking part in Bahay Bahayan ourselves.
Yeah.
We're playing house.
Mini Bahay Bahayan. So it was like a series of adjustments and figuring out, okay, what's the safest way, but the most feasible way to go about things, like every step of the way until now. What else?
And just to add on to that, like I think it's also important to take note that all of these efforts, like working together with the hub, with 98B working with the hub to mount Bahay Bahayan, like it felt so natural because I think like the idea of working together, it came naturally because that's something that we've picked up from 98B. Like for me, that's something I learned from Gab and Mayumi and Mark, and also Mark and all the other members with the whole team. So even though at first like it felt so nerve-wracking because you've been so isolated for such a long time, once you got together and mounted a project, like everything was just organic. So it's, as Mark said, like it's good to see the spirit of 98B getting passed to other people, even though, like the team now is very new. Maybe Gab can can share now.
I thought I was going to be safe.
Or you will be the spirit.
So, well, for the then, of course, when the initial lockdowns in the Philippines were announced, it was very devastating, I guess. It was very depressing because coming from, of course, that environment and that spirit that everyone in 98B, the hub, or even Load na Dito was coming from. It's really based on physical presence, interaction, and then because it's not just like you can't communicate with just words. I mean, there's the physical aspect of it, like seeing the person, looking at his gestures, his reactions, and everything, and that builds upon to that multi-layered thing that happens when you communicate with someone. So when the lockdowns and then happened, and then we were all forced into isolation, it was really depressing. Like for me personally, it was very devastating, especially with the den. I think because, of course, it's a very physical space. It's a coffee shop that also mounts, like, of course, cultural programming, and then the idea also of a coffee shop doing that kind of programming, and then the idea of a coffee shop being a third place where people normally go outside of their homes or hang out outside of their homes. I mean, that closing down or not being able to access that space, it really has a huge impact in the, of course, the community that space created, and then also the participants and organizers for that space. So, of course, when the lockdowns happened, I took time to be sad. I think it was very important because, yeah, you need to process your feelings. You need to figure out things, think about things also, and go through that whole process of feeling why you're suddenly disconnected from everyone that you like, or the things that you really love. And then after processing that, then there comes, I guess it's true for everyone, there comes this question: what happens next? What do I do next? So after being feeling powerless for a while, how can we move on? What can we do? Because, yeah, like Kathy mentioned earlier, we're all like self-initiators or initiators for groups and communities that we have, or spaces even. So it's uncomfortable not doing things for every one of us, especially Mark, I think, because he's very spontaneous. So the idea, the first thing that popped to mind when confronted with that question is, how do I translate the space into something online that can be accessed by everyone? So I think by April last year, I put up the website for the Den, and we called it the Den Online Cafe. So everything was there. It's like we created like online exhibition programming, of course, the food delivery service and coffee delivery, and then we also tried to come up with a blog like We Miss People, just keeping in touch with people that you miss. So yeah, that's our way of coping, I guess, during that time. It's to transfer everything there and just replicating the dynamics of what the space is in that online format. Yeah, while still continuing to, do that sustainability thing together, that's complemented by that cultural program. I mean, how are you, Mark and Mayumi? I mean, you have Yoji together with you. How has the experience been, like that transition, that period of transition, and also like just balancing everything?
I think we are every day, not our. It's like every day is a new experience. Especially, I think, for example, this is a very special case in Philippines because they're not allowing kids to go out. I don't know in other countries. So
yeah,
that's one thing that makes us stressful also, because kids wants to go out and they need to release energy. So we and all the homeschooling also transferred online. And I feel like, yeah, I'm the one studying because I'm already on. So it's also kind of interesting how the home, because you talk about bahay-bahayan, the home becomes the microecology now because everyone is inside the house and you deal with everyday maybe problems, everyday experiences, and it's in the four corners of the house. And this microecology becomes almost similar to space that we started. But I think now because of the we cannot really see each other, so like catching up, texting, or messaging in Instagram, delivering food to each
Yes.
other. I think
Yeah.
that's a good gesture that we still continue even though we don't see each other.
Yeah, I was really touched, Mayumi, when you sent potato salad over. I really miss your potato salad, Mayumi. In case you were wondering, Mayumi has the best potato salad. She makes it from scratch.
Yes, if you're interested, just call us up.
Yes.
I'll send you some gabs. I've been thinking about it. It's just so hard to cook these days.
I know it's too hot to function.
But
Yes, and I want to
yeah.
send you banana bread again.
Oh, yes, we can exchange.
Yes.
And it's interesting to, I mean, not interesting, but I was feeling touched when Gabs mentioned about how to recognize our sadness, the emotions that we are going through. And in the beginning of lockdown, I was okay because I'm not so outgoing person. No, I think I'm okay to be just inside the house. But it's just recently, after a year of the situation not improving, if it's not getting worse, I started to feel very sad whenever I see Yoji, because he's been just in the same spot for the last 1 year, not seeing anyone else but just me and Mark. And he was the first target of Mark's spontaneous response. So, he was drawn into Mark's project. But the time was still I feel very positive. We didn't know how long it's gonna last, but we still had hope. But just last few weeks, it's been a bit difficult for me. Well, it's nice to hear that you also took time to face your sadness. And I feel I'm trying not to address that part of myself. So yeah, I think I'm gonna cry after we hang up.
We can have a private Zoom cry later with beer.
We'll
Yeah,
just
but-
cry, yes.
And I think it's true, like when you said that the past few weeks, it has also been difficult because considering that we have been in the longest period of isolation of our lives, and we can't see things improving. The past few weeks also has been like a tipping point of sorts in recognizing like failures in systems, in governance, in leadership also. Yeah. I mean, that could be the trigger why we're all, feeling in a funk recently.
So I feel this is a right moment that, Cassie and Christine decided to call us up to meet like this.
Yeah, I think it's also very important to talk about this because, because everything is presented online. Those sort of things are already curated or fine-tuned. So they are presented to look perfect or shiny, but as you know, workers in the arts and cultures, like the labor that we put in behind the work that are not seen, like those are the things that are important to talk about too, especially now, because right now, like you cannot only just continue working and working and working. Like you have to be in tune with not just how you're feeling, but also how your teammates are feeling, because that kind of sensitivity helps with how um, a project is going to be mounted. Yeah.
Yes, it's true, Kathy. Like you mentioned that, like a few months also, I've been thinking about the way we consume things, in terms of, like social media, of course, on our mobile phones. It's very. I think there must be there was a point also that I was very conscious also of what I'm being presented with and what I'm consciously consuming, because yeah, it's very, there's I have to like remind myself that there is something more maybe to be what is being presented to me beyond the filter of the screen or the glass of our mobile phones.
That's so true. The trend of like algorithms and echo chambers, like within our own circles, we tend to get or like share the same information within our circles. So it's important to like get out of that like sphere and like be more critical of what we take in. At the same time, it's also hard to not get overwhelmed like with the news, the like the barrage of bad news that we keep on getting. So we actually have to take the time to grieve and process and like, okay, buck up and then cope in our own ways.
Yeah,
What?
so
Sorry.
so is working with community our way of coping?
Yeah, I think there's yeah, of course there's many things happening, and then with the bad governance, how they handle things. But there's, I think I see hope with the artists because they initiate things on their own. They start projects. They even help artists, other artists. They fundraise with other people. So this kind of small hope is interesting because it's beyond art now. And I think because there's a need really, and I think artists see a big imagination, like they imagine many things or big things. So I think that's one way to keep in mind during this pandemic is this big imagination that we share. That's why I think artists, but there's also the idea of artists not essential during this time, or artists are not essential. But I think it's the long process of how we see art or artists are essential. But being as a human being is the first thing that we have. So I think there's hope, especially with the young artists. I think, and the use of technology also is very, I know, strong because they use it every day.
Yes, it's true, Mark. I think it's challenging, but there's also a lot of possibility, like moving forward with the way how spaces work or will continue to function. And I'm always reminded, I think, what you always say before, like.
What's that?
Oh, the joke.
Don't tell to Mark.
Okay. Just artists exploring possibilities. I think that's an idea that's always ingrained before in 98B, and then I think that also is what proves or has proved to the community, I guess, in the past year, is that culture is essential because artists present these possibilities with the new ways that we do things or the new thoughts that we propagate. I think by continuing to exist and progress and work as spaces or individual practices, I think that's what tells people that artists and culture is essential for them, especially during this time.
Yeah, also I want to add like arts now is not just about art. Like Mark said, it has become this very human thing. Like it has transcended into something else. And I think art now is all about care and nurturing yourself and also others. And like I've read somewhere just last week that caring for other people and yourself is essential to the revolution. Like the things that we do are radical because they're rooted in care and nurturing. So yeah, that's something that we've been all practicing throughout this whole pandemic that's trying to isolate everyone from each other.
I think I want to agree with Kathy. I think the past few projects during the pandemic or during the lockdown definitely got us, the team, like really reconsidering why we do things. There was a period where everyone was asking, why are we doing this? Should we continue this? Do we foresee this continuing? But I think we found it in ourselves maybe as an innate response to mount projects that reached out to people even more fervently than before, I think. And it just reminded me that our last public event before the pandemic was also the Chinese New Year. And then we mounted Bahay Bahayan on the Chinese New Year. So it's almost exactly a year apart. So I felt like there was a period of grieving. Like everyone was asking, why are we doing this? There was even a period, like a few months, where we didn't really even talk to each other. Kathy, I, and Juno. Like everyone was silent because everyone was grieving all by themselves. And then we just found the strength to really ask each other how we are. Maybe even because of a project that 98P mounted with the Japan Foundation, which is Network. It gave us like the reason to move and to really reach out um, within the team and with each other to ask, how are you? How are your daily practices? How is it keeping you sane right now? So yeah, the grieving has been subtle, but it's a long process. It's been a year of grieving.
No, like to add to like what you guys said as well, I think a really big coping mechanism for everyone is like finding belongingness and like finding community again online. The strength in like understanding that you're not alone, like and then you see like posts from your spaces that it's still holding you through. And I would see comments on the hub, on the den, how are even people who can't access the space are still rooting for the spaces to survive and to hold through, because people really want to connect and participate and engage somehow. Like they want to be part of the community. They want to be connecting with people, and like spaces like that, like the hub and the den, remind you that we have like conducive and safe spaces to like just share ideas and exchange our humanity.
I think I'll just add a little bit of to continue the conversation about spaces. It's interesting that the spaces are limited now, or we cannot access, but like it's a place where people meet or congregate. But I think now the time is our space that we share. Like right now, we share 1 hour as a time, and even different time zone with Andan and other people who's listening here. We kind of share a time, which is a new space. I think that because of this pandemic, we kind of agree on this time slot to create a space. So I guess this time becomes more meaningful because we share together. And I think the space is our own bodies, maybe also can be. That is like that can be transcend also. So, but for now, it's a screen that we share. But the time is important. So thank you for the time that we share together.
Yeah. I want to thank everyone as well. Even though everything was last minute, like I invited everyone if they want to have this discussion together online that will be archived forever in the internet. Everyone said yes. Thank you so much. And I think it was also very like easy to talk with everyone again because we've worked with each other. Um, we're friends, everyone's friends. Um, so maybe as a last to sort of like as a last note to close the session, to end the session, like I just wanna maybe ask one last question. Like if you have, something important that you've learned or unlearned during this time that has helped you um, as initiators, as space workers in this pandemic. Who wants to say it first? To answer first.
I could go ahead. I think number one would be community and like working with everyone, like working outside of yourself. I don't think I could have done anything without everyone's help, like Gab's guidance and like 98B's like skills. And I'm still until now constantly learning how to adjust and adapt like through everyone as well. So if anything, like community and a network and learning from each other.
Yeah, I'll go next. I think asking for help definitely, and like saying that I'm not in a good place, like even if you have to work with something, like I need help, you have to catch this for me for now. And asking for, or like being open and being vulnerable, I think is something I have to learn. And my pride, especially with ownership with what I do, is something that I unlearned through the process of being or working with a team, working with women that whose body of work is like really evident of community and like working together. So I think that's something that am currently learning, and I'm still letting go of the pride of ownership with my work, and like really being able to share it without the sense of ego that something is mine alone. So I think that's something I'm really learning to let go, and I'm really accepting help and really opening myself to real, or I think collaboration in its um, barest form. Yeah.
Uh, Maybe I'll go next. So the most senior will end.
So that's Kathy, the last one.
No, it's you.
Yeah, I think it's just echoing what everybody's saying. Uh, I think I learned that as initiators, you're always giving of yourself to the practice, to the community, to yeah. So, uh, yeah, I think I learned that it's okay to get help. Also, like Tin said, and then I also recognize and value the relations, I think, and what initiating communities has helped me through this time also, because it has become like a sort support system also. It enables for things to continue, and then yeah, and then that culture is essential because yeah, I said earlier that it shows the possibilities of what could happen to people the in the cultural work that we do.
So I'm not the most senior, so I would like to go before Mark. And I totally agree with what everyone said. The more isolated we are, the more aware we become that we actually exist in relationships with others, or with other things. So I started to feel the connection even closer to the people around me who I can't see, or to the things and ideas. So thinking about these links have been something that I've been doing since last year. And I also started to think it's time for us to all review all these invisible energies and also works that we put forward. So again, I think I've been also relearning how not to present, but also present. So those are like, I think, interesting topics that I'm trying to play around. Yeah. Okay, and I will invite.
Okay.
Our most distinguished part of the panel.
Okay, so my last part is to sing. Are you ready? No, but I totally agree with everyone's inputs and about relationships. I think that's the most important one that happened during this COVID time, because a lot of relationships or connection also was cut off because of this deadly pandemic. And it's also through relationships and linkages and like creates more solidarity with each other. Not even though you don't really have like a family or blood relationship, but we become more, I think, more connected because of this what's happening. And right now I'm also thinking about the idea of circulation, because the air circulates, no, but also maybe our own individual or collective initiatives circulate within different aspect of the art community or society. So I guess the circulation of the energy again, or the spirit, we are passing to different individuals or collective. So I think, yeah, that's what I learned, and also still learning, because the idea of circulation also is to breathe, so to live. So I guess we want to live longer and be healthy. So yeah, thank you. And Kathy, I want to hear your
No, I just want to add on what you said about circulation. I like during the whole discussion, I was thinking about how bees pollinate, like carry on like pollens, to help like plants thrive. And I think like for all of us, like while talking, like I sort of envisioned like everyone as worker bees trying to like pollinate this essence of or values that's rooted in like togetherness and community work. And it's so nice to see it thriving in each and every one of us, and hopefully to be passed to more people as well. For like this family sort of this family to grow. um yeah. uh Thank you everyone for joining this discussion, this current session of Walkie Talkie. Thank you Andan and Ruang Rupa for inviting us. I hope we can all meet together again someday in a space that's COVID free from systematic oppression. um, yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you 98B, Katie, Gab, Mark, Mayumi, Eliz, and Christine for your time to share your stories.
thank you.
What a fruitful conversation, and very interesting to hear all the stories, how it started and how it's evolved into something else, but still get connected, even though we are not meeting in persons to collaborate, but yeah, we still meet and we still converse, we still hang out virtually. Yeah, thank you so much for your time, and then thank you so much for 98B and also all the projects that already discussed here. Looking forward for next stories and conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andan.
Next,
Thank you.
Thank you, Andan.
Thank you, Ruang Rupa. Ingat. Ingat.
Salam.
Paalam.